Well, good afternoon and welcome to H360 Live. My name is Dave Duplay. I'm joined here in the studio with my colleague from Healthy 360, Cortland Long. Cortland, how are you doing today?
I'm well, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing great. How was your weekend?
It was really nice. I caught up on a lot of stuff. How was yours?
Mine was great. The weather was fine. I had a board meeting on Saturday and spent time working on Sunday, but that's all right. Yeah. So we've got an exciting show coming up for you today. We've got Nic and Henry coming in the studio. These guys are professional competitive pogo stickers. You're not going to want to miss this episode. We chat to the right. We use the hashtag Real Stories and would appreciate it if you did the same. But first, as always, we've got some health tips we want to share with you because, Cortland, we came across this very interesting article called Finding Creative Outlets to Manage Stress. And you know, we all have stress in our life.
Absolutely.
And some people manage it better than others. Some people don't manage it at all, and it all kind of percolates inside of them until one day, kind of like a bottle of champagne, the cork blows, and I don't think good things happen. But there are some creative ways that you can use to manage your stress. And it's very interesting, you know, whether you're a student, a business owner, or just everyday life, stress, you know, is on us. So I got to ask you, Cortland, do you manage your stress properly?
I think I manage my stress pretty well. You know, I don't know that I get stressed more or less than anybody else, but I have some pretty good avenues for dealing with stress, and there are some new ways for dealing with stress that are coming up in a lot of these articles recently. And you know, when you talk to your friend about an issue that you're having and they will say, oh, it'll all be okay. Well, sometimes we do that to ourselves, and that's not always the most helpful thing. So finding some creative new outlets, like a new hobby or a new activity, is very helpful.
Yeah, now, I don't know about your personal life, but I heard you're not very stressed at work because you've got a fantastic boss.
That's absolutely true.
It is?
Yeah.
It's just not something that's floating around out there.
No, the rumors are true.
Okay. Well, some of these healthy outlets are really important, and you know, maybe you can adopt them into your lifestyle. I've tried a couple of them myself. The first one is join an acting class. If you're stressed out, try acting. Photography, painting class, art class, you know, it's kind of one and the same, right? But it's a very creative outlet for you to manage your stress. Another good one, and this is one a friend of mine, she does, she is really into baking and cooking. And I noticed when she seems to be stressed from work, she bakes a little more often.
Yeah.
And I think she's been stressed over the last 6 months quite a bit because I've gained about 5 pounds. So while she's trying to de-stress, I'm the recipient of the baked goods and I'm putting on a little weight, so I got to watch that.
Well, that answers my question of where the cookies and the muffins go to.
Yeah, they come over to my house. Yeah. Dancing or taking a dance class is another great one, and that I think is a twofer. It'll help manage your stress, and you know, you'll burn off some calories. Maybe that's what I should think about after I eat those baked goods. I know you have a couple for us. What do you have?
So another one is exercising or bike riding. I personally love to do yoga or go for a run when I'm feeling a little bit stressed out. Reading or joining a book club is another great outlet for stress. I find that joining a book club also will be very beneficial because it will help expand your social circle too, and so then you'll have more friends to kind of, you know, talk through issues that you're having in your life. And then the last one is spending more time outdoors. You know, getting outdoors and really being able to get in some of that fresh air is a great outlet for stress.
So you had some good ones there. Biking, because you're a biker.
Yep.
You like the outdoors, right? You grew up in the Midwest. You spent a lot of time outdoors, right? In the open plains, right?
Yeah, in the suburbs of Chicago.
Okay. Well, hey, you know, I've got this imaginary image in my mind. Let's go with it.
Okay.
So no matter what it is, the important thing is to find something that's right for you.
That's right.
Find something that you're going to enjoy, that you're going to de-stress with. So great health tips. If you enjoyed those, chat to the right. Use the hashtag Real Stories for us if you don't mind. But Cortland, you know, we sent our interns out on the streets of New York just to see how stressed our fellow New Yorkers are and what they're doing about managing their stress. Would you like to watch the video?
I would love to.
Matthew, would you roll that for us?
How do you deal with stress?
I deal with stress by exercising usually. I go for a run or go work out.
Well, I try not to stress over things actually, because you just can't change it.
Taking myself outside of that stressful situation.
Sometimes I go and hang out with my husband. I'm actually married.
So he and I love to go and eat like as much food as we can eat in a Japanese restaurant.
Can you recall a time where you had a particular great amount of stress that you had to deal with?
Yeah, I believe during the period of 9/11, my office was in 2 World Trade Center, and it was a very stressful situation just trying to get out of the building.
I think when I was applying for nursing schools, that was very stressful.
A couple of weeks ago, when someone passed away that I know. So, yeah.
There was a job that I had before, and I actually have bipolar disorder, and sometimes it's very difficult to reconcile the bipolar side of me with the working side. When people need you to come to work and I'm like having a breakdown or something, that was extremely stressful for me.
Do you have any hobbies that you use as a stress outlet?
As a stress outlet, I tend to play piano or my guitar and write my own music.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I do calisthenics, I do yoga, I work out, I'm very physical in terms of exercising, etc.
Talking to friends, you know, hanging out, relieves stress as well.
How difficult do you find managing stress?
It's not difficult to manage, it just kind of overwhelms you.
But as I said, because I have bipolar, sometimes when I have an episode, it's extremely difficult to deal with it. But my husband, my therapist, everybody's always there and gung-ho for me to get back on the train. So that's good.
Not really when you have some useful tools to use.
Things get out of control, and you just have to simply take a deep breath and say to yourself, okay, let me just relax. My blood pressure is rising. Let me just take it easy. Just a matter of recognizing what's going on and knowing what to do.
Well, Cortland, wow, that was an interesting video, huh?
It was really good, an awesome bunch of people.
Yeah, now the one gentleman had his office at the World Trade Center. That's really sad.
Yeah, it was really sad. I'm glad that he was able to get out. you
Yeah.
know?
Now, could you imagine the amount of stress that was in his life right after that?
Oh, no,
And he seems to be doing fine. And then the other lady, she's bipolar, I believe she said.
Yeah, they all
Yeah.
have some really good tools, it seems like, to deal with stress.
They do. And, you know, very insightful, the nurse, the nursing
Absolutely.
student. Yeah, she had some really good ideas and tips. So, once again, our interns were out in the streets. They did not disappoint. Our fellow New Yorkers are stressed, but seem to be managing it just fine.
Yeah.
Well, now's our favorite time of the show. We have Nic and Henry in the studio with us. These guys, as I mentioned, are professional competitive pogo stickers. We're going to talk about that. We've got one of their pogo sticks right here. We're going to talk about what makes this particular stick different than the rest. Guys, welcome. I'm glad to have you here.
Yeah, glad to be here, Dave.
We have, I want to tell the people at home that this is a really extreme sport. And you're not going to run out and buy one of these pogo sticks and expect to do what these guys do. And I want to, before we get started with our discussion with Henry and Nic, I want to show you guys just what I'm talking about. We've got an awesome little video that we put together to show just how extreme this sport is. So Matthew, would you roll that video for us? What did you think about that video, huh?
I mean, I love that video. Every
Yeah.
time we watch it, it's awesome.
You guys were getting some awesome air there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Now, remind me, where was that? Was that at Pogo Palooza?
Yep, that was our annual competition, the U.S. Open in Jacksonville this past summer.
Jacksonville, Florida.
Yep.
Yep. So we sponsored you down there. You were wearing, I noticed in the video, you were wearing the Healthy h360 shirts.
Always repping.
Yeah, always repping. That's fantastic. Did you get a lot of good comments on the shirts?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people are always interested because traditionally the Expo Go athletes wear Expo Go related clothing or just standard clothing. So they were. We actually had a few people ask us about, oh, what are you guys doing with that?
Yeah,
and
fantastic.
Cool, yeah.
That's great. So we've got a lot of questions to ask you guys, everything from competitive sports and each one of your stories to what makes this stick different to safety precautions. So let's jump right in, and Cortland's going to start with the first question here.
Sure.
Yeah, Henry, Nic, thank you guys so much for coming in. We're really excited to catch up with you both, and we know you've had a whirlwind of a summer. So Dave and I both know you pretty well, but for our members at home, can you give them a little bit of your history?
Right. So I'm Nic Patino. I've been pogo sticking for almost 4 years now. I'll turn 18 next month. And pogoing has become, it went from a hobby to, a lifestyle. And I love every bit of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name's Henry Cabellis. I go to school with Nic. We get to pogo stick a lot, which is nice. And I'm 15 and turned 16 in, I think, 3 days now.
All right.
But, yeah, pretty much the same as Nic. It started out as a hobby just for fun, but then very fast it just turned into something that I was doing all the time and getting to travel for.
Yeah. So tell me a little about how you guys got started. So you said, it turned into it was a hobby starting out. Was there something that happened in your life that really got you deep into this, and was we just did a whole segment on managing stress, and I was talking about baking and dancing, and your guys are out flying 20 feet in the air pogo sticking. What triggered you guys getting into this? So
I'd say I got my pogo stick for Christmas in 2010, and that next spring when school started, it was my second year of middle school, and I had just gotten the pogo stick and had recently become addicted to trying tricks and progressing with it. And I think stress from school actually pushed me more towards it because it's something that you just have to focus on, and it's just something that takes you away from everything for a moment. Yeah. Now, Henry, what about you? Was there a trigger point or something that really got you into it, or was it your buddy here?
Yeah, I mean, after seeing Nic pogo stick in person, I just thought it was the coolest thing I had seen in my entire life, so I knew I had to do it. But then, also, I mean, it's just something to kind of if once you start pogo sticking, you can just get away from everything else and just have fun.
Yeah.
Great. So what was it about extreme pogo that really drew you guys into the sport rather than music or skateboarding or another sport?
I actually have no rhythm, no musical talent whatsoever. I wish I did, but
me too.
So it's always been sports for me. I started out with martial arts and focused on that. Got my black belt when I was young, and then started to get into skateboarding and that kind of thing. But wasn't too good at it, and just kind of started trying new things, BMX, bouncing on my trampoline, and eventually found it and just have been sticking to it. It's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Now, what was that first pogo stick like? I mean, it wasn't this thing here, right?
Absolutely not. No. My first pogo stick was a stick I got for Christmas. Not the one not the Vertigo that I got for Christmas, but a few years before that. Just a little spring pogo stick, metal spring, 2 or 3 inches in the air. And then kind of put it away for a little bit, and then moved back up to the big boy. A few years later.
Now, Henry, what about you? What was your first stick like?
That was actually my friend's pogo stick up the street from my house, and I just used to go up there and jump on his pogo stick all the time. And then eventually, me and my little brother both paid for half of a pogo stick. And then I went through a couple, and they just kind of started breaking, and I kind of got tired of it. And then I just kind of took a break for a couple years until I saw Nic trying out for the talent show with the pogo stick, and that just from then on, I was just hooked.
The talent show at school?
Yeah.
You tried out for now you had to be the only one doing pogo in the talent show.
True, yeah. Actually,
I don't know what New Hope, Pennsylvania is like, but I'm just picturing you're only one.
Yeah, no, it was, he had tried out for the talent show, and we didn't know each other at this point, but I had that, and it was my first ever performance of anything, getting up on stage, and the day before the live talent show, the rehearsal, I was bouncing very, very excited, and actually hit my shoulder up on the stage light, and that offset my next bounce enough so that I slipped out on a polished surface on the lip of the stage and knocked myself clean out right in front of this kid. And his first thought, of course, was, I want to do that.
Yeah, so you were also trying out for the talent show.
Yeah.
And what were you going to do in the talent show?
I actually used to be really big into music. Like, I
Ah.
was playing piano and harmonica at the same time and stuff. I had like a
Oh,
whole
wow.
medley of songs.
That's awesome. So Nic, you bring up something that I want to ask you guys about. This precautions for wiping out. Do you guys have any
Right.
safety measures other than this helmet you have here?
Yeah, so a lot of people ask us, like, why don't we wear knee pads and elbow pads and such? And the reason behind that is it limits our motion too much. We need to be really free and able to move in the air, because there's nothing that you can, push yourself off of. It's, all your motions. So the farthest we can go is we wear braces, ankle braces specifically, just for the impact, as well as our helmets, of course.
That's good.
So this is a really cool helmet, and this is what you're wearing. I'm just wondering what Cortland would look like with this helmet. So show of hands, do we want to see with the helmet?
Yeah,
Cortland with the
let's
helmet?
find out.
You gonna? All right.
So when the talent show people saw you hit your shoulder, did they allow you to participate in the talent show?
Well, I was extremely concussed after that. I lost consciousnness and was out for a minute or two.
Were you wearing this helmet?
Not that helmet, but I was wearing a very similar helmet. And I spent the next like 9 hours in the hospital after that.
Yeah.
So I was not going to participate, but that I definitely credit that to helping me recover quicker.
That's good. Well, if you like how I look in this helmet, you should chat to the right, #real stories, Cortland looking fine.
Hashtag helmet head. No, you look great in it, and it's certainly, I mean, it is really a professional grade helmet. You're not gonna, that's not something that you see the kids in the tricycles wearing for sure. So what about you, when you guys were really small, were both of you really competitive? Like I've been to Philadelphia and watched you guys compete, and I know it's kind of like you got all your buddies there competing, and you're kind of like brothers. But when it comes time to compete, you get on that stick, and it's time. Your run is up.
Absolutely.
All the smiles and the laughter are put aside, and you're very focused, and really ultra competitive. Were you guys always like that as little guys?
Yeah, when I was young, I've always been into like individual sports. So I did martial arts, which is a very individual sport, and I've always been really, really hard on myself as an individual. So I tried team sports, and just was like, I don't know, more. I'd rather focus on myself and just have to worry about myself, and so that's what pushed me towards these individual activities.
Yeah, Henry, what about you?
Yeah, I don't think I was very competitive at all, and I think that's why I kind of like the individual thing. Instead of having to like compete against other people, I was just able to do my own thing and have fun with it. And that's why I like to do a lot of things like skiing, and I think that's probably the reason I liked music a lot.
Yeah.
So how does one break into extreme pogo? Like where did you guys learn how to do this? Were you self-taught or did you have coaches?
We're both pretty much all self-taught. When we began pogo sticking, the very beginning, it was based entirely online because the pogo sticking community has guys all across the world. And so we had to just talk through the internet. There was an online forum back then. Expogo.com was pretty basic. Everybody talked through that on the forums, and then we kind of got to know each other. And as we got to know each other, we became closer. And then Henry and I kind of scooted into that as it became a true company.
Now, Henry, tell me what's different about this. I mean, first of all, it's larger than the ones you'd see at Sports Authority. So how does this work? What's the technology behind it? Can you give us just a high-level overview?
Yeah, well, instead of a traditional steel spring, these pogo sticks actually run on air. As you can see, instead of having just a huge spring in here, you just fill it up with like a regular bike pump or something, and then the air just compresses and launches you back up depending on how much you put in it.
Wow. So, how much air do you usually fill this thing up with?
We normally use around 60 psi in it.
Huh. And so is it different for, you know, if you're a heavy, I mean, I would imagine I'd probably need a little more air. I'm much bigger than you guys. Does it depend on, you know, your size and weight as to how much air you put in?
Yeah, it also depends a bit on skill level. Like, I used to be like, for some people, like if they're my weight, they'd start at around 40 psi, so it's easier to compress. Then like as you get better and more comfortable, then you could push down harder, and then you can just put a little more pressure in, a little more height.
Yeah. And so what's interesting is, you know, you're landing on something that's a little bigger than a silver dollar, it looks, right? I'm just looking at the bottom of the Pogo
small.
stick there. And you know, you had mentioned you wiped out at the school. I mean, do you have to stick this thing flush onto the ground when you're jumping? I mean, a little slick surface could really do some damage.
We're always very careful about what surfaces we're bouncing on. Any like polished surfaces are a big no-no because we are landing on a 1.5-inch piece of rubber, and any angles can get really, really dangerous really quickly.
Yeah.
So I have to admit, I have a really tough time watching you guys because my inner mother instincts, you know, are coming out, and I have a heart attack thinking you guys are going to have a bad accident. And I know that you both have unfortunately had some accidents.
Yes.
Can you guys tell us about those?
Yeah, Henry, most recently. Take it away.
A little bit more than a month ago, I was jumping with my friend Dimitri, who was visiting for the month from Russia right after the championship finals in Philadelphia. And we just like cleaned up our pogo sticks real well. We were excited to jump on them. And then after I did, I think it was like a no-handed backflip, I took a bounce back and landed on a slippery spot of tar that I didn't really notice when I started jumping. And then the pogo stick slipped out from under me, and my face just went to the ground.
Wow, a no-handed backflip. All right, not sure what you were thinking, but you guys are the professionals, and so, but now, you know, I know you were wearing your helmet, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And Nic, you had a similar situation?
Yeah, on stage was my worst crash that I've had, the one that inspired Henry to, you know, take this away. So the lip of the stage was this polished hardwood flooring, like in a home, and I knew that I should not land on it, but from hitting my shoulder on the stage light, that bounce before set off the next bounce onto an angle, and so I landed on that on an angle, and just you know, you kind of like, you land and put your weight on the pogo stick, and then the compression is too much for the friction of the surface, and you just slip right out, almost like a whip, just right onto the ground, and that's how we both fell.
Wow.
Do you have a lot of control over how and where you land?
We have more control when we're, you know, moving in a certain direction. When we're bouncing up and down, we kind of, you know, are just bouncing in a certain area, and we don't really control exactly where we are, but we do have quite a bit of you know, control over where we go.
Yeah.
That's good.
Now, you know, the good news is when I went to Philadelphia to watch these guys, the people who were putting the show on, it was delayed because there was no ambulance there. So there's not only safety precautions with these professionals who are wearing helmets, you know, the venue there, they want to make sure that everybody's safe. So they would not let these guys even get on the stick, even to warm up, until the ambulance was there, everything was cleared and ready to go. So Expo Go, how big are they? Are they a relatively kind of new? You know, I look at the X Games, and my son's a big snowboarder. He's been out all over the country snowboarding, and I know the skateboarders and the BMX bike guys are all in these X Game things. Is Expo Go there yet, or is it growing? Where are we going here?
So Expo Go has been a company for just about 10 years now, maybe a little less, and we've been growing, just doing these gigs, getting a team together of all the pro riders across the globe. And what we've been working on in the past few years is just, you know, doing the coolest, biggest gigs that we can to, you know, push the name of both us as a company, us as individuals, and, you know, just the sport in general. So it's just growing constantly, almost at an exponential rate. You know, every day I hear people have heard of it and are asking me about it. I've even been recognized on the street a few times. I think both of us have. That's actually a cool thing, is being recognized.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So because this is largely through Expo Go, I assume that this is pretty independent, not necessarily on behalf of your school or club sport.
Yeah, no, a lot of people ask, like, oh, do you have like a pogo team at school or anything? Which is surprising to me because I've never heard of that. I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist.
Do you think it's close by though? We might be getting there soon.
I don't think so, actually. There aren't too many people who have stuck to it, but that's one of the things we're working on is exposing kids to it. That'll eventually become the next generation of the sport. But yeah, everything's based under Expo Go, which is actually an interesting point. It's the only extreme sport that's based entirely under one company ever.
Yeah, that is interesting. So let's talk about some of the venues where you guys have competed. So you mentioned Jacksonville, Florida was one. So remind me again, what was Jacksonville?
That was the U.S. Open, so qualifiers who made it in the top 10 there would then be able to go to the finals in Philadelphia for free to compete there.
Okay, so Philadelphia is where I came to watch you guys, and that was the World Finals, right?
Yeah.
And how did you guys do there as individuals?
We did fairly well.
Yeah.
I was impressed with both of our placings and everything. I actually won first place in best trick, and Henry got on the podium in every single division.
Wow. So this best trick, what was it?
It was a trick called the Hungarian, where I spin the pogo stick upside down and grab it by the bottom of the tube under my leg in the air, and then realign myself and land it.
Now, why is it called the Hungarian?
I made the trick up as a joke years ago on the trampoline. I was just bouncing and said, "Hey, what if like we did this crazy trick?" And the name kind of just stuck because I figured, oh, I'm half Mexican, a quarter Hungarian, and a quarter German, and I credit the Mexican side of me all the time. But I figured I'd give the Hungarian side a little bit of credit too.
Yeah. Fantastic trick. So then you go from Philadelphia. Where do we go next?
We haven't scheduled where we're going to be next year yet. It's always exciting to see where we'll end up, but we always compete in a very cool place.
But Nic, then you went out to Montana.
I did.
And what was that?
That was the Big Sky State Games. So what it is Expo Go sends out athletes to do demos and shows, as well as these competitions like Pogopalooza. And so that was the Big Sky State Games, which is the Olympics of Montana. And we were pogoing as part of the opening ceremony for that. And it was very cool. I got to see a new place, and it's a beautiful place.
And then you both were recently in Pennsylvania at a fair, putting on exhibitions 3 times a day for a week and a half or so. Henry, what was that like?
It was exhausting but fun nonetheless because we got to pogo stick a lot every day, but just after doing the same thing 3 times a day for 12 days.
And you got to eat good fair food. Did you have those French fries with the malt vinegar and salt on them?
No, I didn't get to try
those. Are my favorite when you go to the fair. Okay. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to let Cortland wrap us up with the very last question because we're running out of time.
Well, what are your guys' plans for the future? You're getting
for the future, so Expo Go is, as I said earlier, growing very quickly. So I'm excited to see where Expo Go as a company will go and take me. But I plan to stick with pogoing as long as I'm having fun with it and being successful. But in the future, going to college and also opening that path up.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna kind of see how far pogo sticking takes me, and then I'm going to see how far it can take me up to college. Then once I'm in college, I'm probably going to focus more on that. For the time being, if pogo sticking isn't really going that far, I'm assuming it's going to go a lot further. But if it doesn't, then I think I'm just going to end up getting a full-time job.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, when I was in college in the fraternity, if I had one of these, oh man, it would have been, my life would be different right now. I'm sure. I'm sure it would. Well, guys, thanks for coming in. I really do appreciate it. Yep, it's been a pleasure. I want to thank the viewers and members at home for tuning in, and I'd like to thank our sponsors for making this all possible. Remember, all of our episodes can be viewed on demand at healthy360.com, and our podcast can be found in the iTunes Store. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. We use the hashtag Real Stories and hope you do the same when posting for us. So on behalf of myself, Cortland Long, and the entire Healthy O360 family, we wish you a very pleasant afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.